Winning Blueprint presents. 5 NFL franchises decided to turn their teams over to rookie quarterbacks in 2012, an unprecedented number thus far. So as they embark on their rookie campaigns, we will follow. So, now let's meet the NFL's starting 5. At number 5, a 5'11" rookie out of Wisconsin and the starter of the Seattle Seahawks, introducing number 3, Russell Number 4, a 6'3" rookie from Oklahoma State and the starter of the Cleveland Browns. Give it up for number 3, Brandon Weeden. At number 3, a 6'4" rookie via Texas A&M and starter for the Miami Dolphins, number 17, Tannehill. At number 2, a 6'2" rookie and second overall draft pick in the 2012 NFL Draft by way of Baylor and the starter of the Washington Redskins. Welcome, number 10, Robert Griffin III. And at number 1, a 6'4" rookie and first overall selection in the 2012 NFL Draft by way of Stanford and the starter of the Indianapolis Colts, number 12, Andrew. This is your starting 5.
Welcome. You are tuned in to the Week 14 edition of the NFL's Starting 5. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. A lot to get to this week. A lot of compelling football from this group. This is the best rookie class of quarterbacks this league has ever seen. Everyone likes to talk about the 1983 class with Marino, Kelly, Elway. They didn't do what these guys are doing right now. They didn't do it that fast. And it's a different league and it's a different time. But this group here, and yeah, we're a here and now society. You know, everything that we see now, the things that are the most fresh to us, always seems to be the best. I get it. However, you gotta admit, what you're seeing from this group, you haven't seen ever in the National Football League. Ever. And that's extraordinary when you're talking about a league that's been around for ages. I mean, even if you just want to go back as far as just the NFL-AFL merger, you haven't seen anything like this. This is, without a doubt, a one-of-a-kind experience. And that's why we must chronicle it on this program. So, let's get right to it. Don't want to waste a lot of time. Let's get into what these quarterbacks were able to do. Then we'll get into the weekly and overall ranks for the season. Want to start with the number 5 quarterback in the starting 5, and that's Russell Wilson. Now, Russell Wilson went out, had himself a whale of a ball game last week, and as I've stated over and over again, he's been one of the most consistent members of the starting 5 all season long. He's really never wavered in his approach to the game. You've never felt like the moment was too big for Russell Wilson. There's never really been a time this season where you looked at him and he looked rattled, and his play on the field looked rattled. He's always been calm, cool, and collected when his teams needed him the most. And it was never more apparent and on display than on Sunday when the Seattle Seahawks took on the Chicago Bears in Chicago at Soldier Field. This is a huge game. Huge game. Huge playoff implications for the Seattle Seahawks and for the Chicago Bears. And this was a game that both of these teams wanted desperately. And the Seattle Seahawks were able to come out victorious. And a large part of it was because of this quarterback here, Russell Wilson. He had one of his finest days as a quarterback in the National Football League to date. I would say this was one of his most impressive games thus far in his young career. And he's had better games statistically than this game. But from a performance standpoint and what this game meant and how it was won and where it was won, this probably is his best performance of his career to this point. Russell Wilson was 23 of 37 for 293 yards, 2 touchdowns, and again, for about the 4th or 5th week, it seems like forever, no interception. He's not turning the football over. I love it. I love when quarterbacks don't turn the football over. Because when you don't turn it over, you give your team a chance. You may not win the game, but it won't be because you turned it over. Your team won't lose because of you. They won't win in spite of you. If your team gets it done, it'll be because you helped them along. You took them to a victory. If your team loses a game, it won't be because you didn't get your job done. It's not because you turned the football over. It'll be some other reason, but it won't be your fault. And on this day, Russell Wilson would not allow this Seattle Seahawks team to lose. They were down 14-10 in this game. Late in the 4th quarter, Russell Wilson takes his team on a 97-yard drive all the way down the field. They're backed up on their own 3-yard line. Goes 97 yards down the field. Scores a touchdown with 36 seconds remaining in the 4th quarter. Looked like the game was over. However, Jay Cutler was able to rally the troops, get in the field goal range for a Robbie Gould field goal that sent this game into overtime. No worries. Russell Wilson was unflappable. They win the toss. The Bears never see the ball on offense because Russell Wilson takes that team down the field in overtime, puts a touchdown on the scoreboard. Bears never see the light of day on offense. Seattle wins the game 23-17. And you're used to Marshawn Lynch dominating the football for this team. And just having Russell Wilson go along as steady Eddie, making plays when they're there to be made. But for the most part, Marshawn Lynch carries the heavy load. The last 2 weeks, it's been the opposite. Russell Wilson has been carrying the load, and Marshawn Lynch has been a complementary piece. And that's the beauty of this team. You just never know which week you're going to get which dynamic component. Because you can get Marshawn Lynch and get 27 carries and get 147 yards put on your head and 2 scores. Or you could get Russell Wilson, 23 of 37 for 293 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions. You don't know which one you're going to get. You could get both in the same game and really be in some serious trouble. But Russell Wilson is, without a doubt, a standout in this NFL's starting 5 group. He continues to impress every single week with his play. His maturation is off the charts. I mean, he was born to do this. Listening to him talk, watching his performance on the field, you see quickly that he was made to be an NFL quarterback. He has the moxie, he has the poise, and he understands what his team needs from him on a week-to-week basis. Some weeks, they don't need him to throw for 290 yards. They just need him to throw for 170 yards. The key is they never need him to turn it over. And he knows that, he understands that, and he doesn't put his team in compromising situations. So he takes care of the football. Give your team a chance, and that's what Russell Wilson did in this game, and they were able to come out with the victory. 23-17 in overtime as they go to 7-5 on the season. And now they have a firm grip on that 6th seed in the NFC playoffs as a wild card. Now, nothing is guaranteed. They still have to go out and win ball games. But that win was huge because the rest of the teams that were 6-5, like the Seahawks coming into Week 13, they all lost. So now they're the only 7-5 team right there at that 6th seed. So if they just continue to win football games, they have nothing to worry about. No one can leapfrog them for that spot. It's theirs if they want it. They just have to continue to play good football. So next up in the NFL starting 5 is the number 4 quarterback. And that's Brandon Weeden, the Cleveland Browns quarterback, who was able to go on the road for the first time this season and lead his team to victory. I like this Brandon Weeden guy. I've been hard on him this season because of the starting five. He's been the one member kind of lagging behind the rest of the group. But he's starting to pick up the rear. And I tell you what, he's not looking like the worst member of this group anymore. You could argue that he still is. I would argue against you and say that he's not. And I really like what he's doing out in Cleveland, and he has weapons. And he's starting to realize that. He's starting to utilize them. And if they can ever put this thing together, the Cleveland Browns will be a dangerous team. Because they play solid defense. Brandon Weeden has weapons at his disposal. I've already told you about his receiving corps. I like it. They're young. They're hungry. They're versatile. You've got a guy for every situation in the game. You need a speedster. You got Travis Benjamin. You need a guy with, raw size, power, strength, and can run. You look at Josh Gordon. You want the guy that's the intermediate specialist that should be able to go over the middle and make a play for you? Look no further than Greg Little. You want someone to be in and out shifty as a slot guy? Josh Cooper. They have a guy for every situation, do the Cleveland Browns. And I haven't even spoken about Muhammad Massaquoi. He's the forgotten guy in this offense now. But every now and again, he'll leap up and get you. I like what they're doing at tight end. I've already told you about their tight end group. Where it's Jordan Cameron, whether it's Benjamin Watson, you could even sprinkle in a little bit of Alex Smith. They get it done at the tight end position. You know what they have at running back with Trent Richardson. I like Montario Hardesty. I've already said that. They got Chris Ogbonnaya as well. They've got pieces. And now Brandon Weeden just has to start learning how to utilize them. And I think he's starting to get that. They went to Oakland and got a win. On the road, Weeden was 25 of 36, 364 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. I'm still a little disappointed that he keeps turning the football over, but he's a rookie. Those things happen. But he's going to have to stop at some point turning the football over. You can't continue to turn the football over and think you're going to win. Luckily enough for him, he was playing the Oakland Raiders. You can turn it over twice in the air and still win the football game because the Raiders aren't going to make you pay for your mistakes necessarily. If this is the Baltimore Ravens and he throws those 2 interceptions, maybe they don't get this win. If that's the Cincinnati Bengals, maybe he doesn't win this game. Again, you can't turn the football over in the National Football League, especially on the road, and think you're going to win most times. He was able to get it done, though, because they were getting chunks in this game. The Browns had over 6 plays of 20 yards or more in this game. They were gashing the Raiders in the passing game. As you can tell by Brandon Weeden's numbers, 364 passing yards, on 25 completions, which means he was getting it done at the quarterback position. We're talking about well over, 10 yards per completion. So he was getting it done. They were in the zone, and he was really finding Josh Gordon in this game. They were hooking up time after time. They connected on a beautiful deep ball in this game. And that was the difference. The Browns were able to make big plays. The Raiders weren't. And when the Browns were able to get in the red zone, they got 7. They scored 2 touchdowns in this game, kicked 2 field goals, and that proved to be the difference as they won this game 20-17. And really, this game wasn't as close as the score indicates. At one point, this score was 20-10, and the Raiders scored a late garbage time touchdown to cut it to 20-17 to make it look respectable. But the Browns were able to get it done for the first time on the road. Now they're 4-8. And they've winners of 2 straight for the first time this season. They're playing solid football right now. And Brandon Weeden, again, another reason why it is occurring. He's not being a hindrance to his team. He did throw 2 interceptions, but he was really steady in this game, 364 yards. And I love the completion percentage here. You're looking at 25 of 36. We're well up over 50. We're up over 60 in this game, and that's important. You have to be efficient as a quarterback in the National Football League. You can't be efficient as a passer. You're not going to be able to lead your team and do the things that they need you to do to be a productive quarterback in the National Football League. You have to be more productive at the quarterback position, and the best way to do that is to have a higher completion percentage. Put the ball in the hands of your skill guys. Let them work. If you can't get the ball in their hands, then you have an issue. Plays aren't going to be made if it's hitting the ground constantly. got to put the ball in the hands of your playmakers and allow them to make plays. And that's what Brandon Weeden has been doing of late. And I like to see the maturation that's going on with Brandon Weeden right now. A lot of things are starting to blossom here, and I like what I'm seeing of Brandon Weeden. Just a month ago, I was disgusted with Brandon Weeden. I was perturbed by him because there was too many instances where guys were running open and he wasn't making the play. That wasn't the case in this game. If a guy was open, Weeden hit him. And hit him in stride. He didn't just hit him, because there's a lot of times where Weeden is high and guys got to go up and leap and make grabs for him. That wasn't the case in this game. If your hands were here, that's where the football was, and you had a chance to run after the catch. That is huge in the National Football League. Because, as we all know, yak is where it's at. Yards after catch is where it's at in the National Football League, and Brandon Weeden was able to help his team get that and get the win in Oakland, as the Cleveland Browns were able to win 20-17, take their record to 4-8 on the season. And now they're looking like a team is trying to build for the future, build and have a positive finish to this season and take it into next season. So let's talk about the number 3 member of the starting 5. And that's Mr. Ryan Tannehill. He has been struggling of late. Of all the members of the starting 5, I feel like he's regressing right now. Everyone else is taking steps forward, and he seems to be taking steps backwards. I'm a little alarmed at this because I thought the Dolphins might have had something for a minute there, and I still do. Not saying that Tannehill isn't the answer, because I feel like he's got a long way to go, but he's shown promise this season, a lot of it. But again, in his game against the New England Patriots, and he was the only starting 5 member this week to lose. Every other member of the starting 5 won. They were 4-1 on the week. The lone loss coming to Ryan Tannehill as they lost to the New England Patriots at home. His numbers tell the story in this game. 13 of 29, 186 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He just wasn't solid in this game. We're talking about less than 50% of his passes being completed in this game. No touchdown passes. He didn't turn it over. He did have a fumble that he gave up, but he didn't turn it over in the air, but it doesn't matter. He wasn't efficient in this game. He didn't give his team a chance. And I'll give you a couple of examples. In this game, Brian Hartline is racing up the field, wide open. When I say wide open, I mean there's not a Patriot defender in sight. If he completes this pass, even if Brian Hartline has to come to a complete stop to catch the football because it's poorly underthrown, this ball is still completed. He may not score, but it's still completed for a 40-yard gain. If he hits him in stride, he walks in the end zone with a 60-yard touchdown. If he has to slow down, doesn't have to come to a complete stop, he still probably scores a touchdown. That's how open Brian Hartline was, and Ryan Tannehill overshot him by about 5 yards. Later on in the game, Hartline is racing down the sidelines. Has about 2, maybe 3 steps on the defender. So that's open. That constitutes open in the National Football League. He had 2 to 3 steps on a defender. Tannehill overcompensates for missing him the last time, underthrows this one by about 2 yards. He has to stop for the ball, does Brian Hartline. The defender is able to get back into the play, knocking away incomplete pass. 2 prime examples of Ryan Tannehill having an opportunity to make a difference in this game, put points on the scoreboard, or at least put your team in the red zone, or as I like to call it, the money zone, and put points on the board. Wasn't able to do so. And that's the difference right now between Brandon Weeden, Andrew Luck, Robert Griffin III, Russell Wilson, who's all on this side, and Ryan Tannehill, who's over here. He's not making the plays when they present themselves. Everyone else, when that deep ball is open, they're not going to hit it every time. That's not what I'm saying. But if you give them 5 deep ball opportunities, those guys that I named over here in the starting 5, they're going to hit 3 of them. At least 3 of them. If not 4 or all 5. Tannehill, on the other hand, right now, he's not hitting them. He might hit 1 out of the 5. If he's lucky. I mean, those passes were poorly thrown in that game. And he's been doing that of late. Missing guys who are open. He's got to be better. and against teams like the Patriots who are much better than you are, you can't afford to allow opportunities to pass you by. They present themselves, you got to reach up and grab them. Because you're not going to get those opportunities too many times against good teams like the New England Patriots. They presented themselves, you didn't take advantage of them. And so, to me, he had one of the worst weeks of any member of the starting five, and he lost. So that compounds matters and makes it that much worse. The Dolphins are now 5-7 on the season, and they weren't able to get it done. They dropped to the Patriots in this game, 23-16. The Patriots got it done, but I think this was more indicative of Ryan Tannehill just not taking advantage of opportunities that were there that could have helped his team win this football game. So we move on to the number 2 member of the starting five, and that's Robert Griffin III. Now, Robert Griffin III had a Monday night matchup against the New York Giants, a game that was huge in many regards, not just for the playoff picture in terms of wild card for the Washington Redskins, but for the NFC East division. I mean, this game, if the Redskins were able to get it, would climb them one game within the New York Giants in this division and would give them a split with the Giants in the season series and also give them the inside track on the Giants in terms of divisional records. This game, if the Redskins were able to capture it, would give the Giants their 3rd loss within the division this season, having already lost once to the Cowboys, Eagles, and if the Redskins were able to beat them, the Redskins, which would give them 3 losses in the division. And if the Redskins are able to win their final 2 division games, that would give them only 2 losses in the division. And if they ended up tied, that would give the Redskins the tiebreaker edge that they would need to win the division over these very Giants. So this was a huge game. And Robert Griffin III, as he always does, showed up, showed out, and got his team a victory, and a much-needed one at that, on the biggest stage there is on Monday Night Football, with all eyeballs on him. And he did not disappoint. Now, the numbers that you see and that he compiled in this game aren't the numbers that he had over the last 2 weeks. Those numbers over the last 2 weeks were cartoonish. You're not going to see those numbers every week. Don't spoil yourself with those type of numbers and expect to see that every week, because if that's what you're looking for, you're barking up the wrong tree and you're being irrational. You're not being logical. Those numbers from the Eagles game 2 weeks prior and the Dallas game a week ago, those numbers were cartoonish. Those numbers were ridiculous. We're talking about 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, close to 600 yards passing in just 2 weeks. I mean, the man only had 8 touchdown passes coming in to that game 3 weeks ago against the Eagles. And now, after those 2 weeks of football, he doubled his total. So, I mean, those games were out of this world. But you don't have to play that way every week for your team to win. As Russell Wilson shows you week in and week out. You don't have to be dynamic. Your numbers don't have to be eye-popping for your team to win games. You just have to be steady, make plays when they're there to be made, don't turn the football over, and do whatever it is your team needs you to do to help them win. In Robert Griffin III's case, if his team needs him to tuck it and run, he does it. If his team needs him to take a hit to stay in bounds, he does it. If his team needs him to go down the field and make a play with his arm, he obliges. Whatever his team needs him to do, he does it. And that's the mark of a leader. That's the mark of a good quarterback in the National Football League. You look at his numbers from Monday, Robert Griffin III was only 13 of 21 for 163 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. But he also added 5 rushes for 72 yards. And these were some big runs in the game. And these passes that he made, when they were made, were huge. And what you have to take into context with his numbers is the Redskins didn't have the ball many times in this game. The Giants really controlled the clock, especially in the first half. But when the Redskins did have the football, they made the most of it. And the reason why they were able to make the most of it is because of Robert Griffin III and his effectiveness, his efficiency, and his ability to make plays when they're there to be made. And that's a lost art. A lot of quarterbacks in the league don't take full advantage of opportunities when they're right there in front of their face. A lot of teams could be better than they are right now. but their quarterback position stinks. And it's because quarterbacks aren't making plays when they're there to be made. We saw the Arizona Cardinals bench John Skelton a few weeks back against the Atlanta Falcons when they were actually leading in the game. They benched him for play detrimental to the team because he missed a wide open Larry Fitzgerald in the end zone by about 4 yards. Inexcusable. Opportunity to make a play, he didn't make it. Team loses the game because of it. That's not what happens with these rookies. And in cases of Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson, Robert Griffin III, these guys step up when the pressure is its highest, when the pressure is its greatest, when the light is its whitest and hottest. These guys step up to the occasion. Every single time. They have not disappointed yet. And Robert Griffin III got it done again on Monday Night Football against the New York Giants in a game that the Redskins had to have to keep their season relevant. And he went out and he put together a masterful performance. And the numbers, they may not scream masterful performance, but if you saw what he did, it was a Picasso. It was definitely a Picasso. When plays needed to be made with his arm, they were on target. When he needed to run with his legs, extend plays, he did it. And when his team was trailing by 6 in the fourth quarter, needing a drive to take the lead, he took his team right down the field, as Russell Wilson did against the Bears, and got him that game-winning score. And that's the mark of a champion. That's the mark of a good quarterback. And don't forget, we're talking about rookies here. The poise, the moxie, and the understanding of what it takes to win and what your team needs from you for them to win. Off the charts for these rookies. And Robert Griffin III once again stepped up to the plate and got it done for his team as they were able to beat the Giants on Monday night 17-16. Taking their record to 6-6. They're at 500 for the first time on the season since they were 3-3 earlier in about week 7. So this team is showing some promise now. They have a shot, a legitimate shot at making the postseason now. Have a long way to go. But they're in a good position, and the reason they are is because of Robert Griffin III. So we go on to our number 1 member of the starting 5. And that's Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck got it done on Sunday. My goodness. You look at these numbers that he put up, and they're not pretty. They are not pretty. And I get on Andrew Luck because I don't like the incompletions. You know, I feel like too many of his passes hit the ground. But again, for the Indianapolis Colts and what they ask of him, the ball's going to hit the ground because they're going to ask him to chuck it 42 times. They're going to ask him to chuck it 46 times. They're going to ask him to put the ball in the air an inordinate amount of times. And so the more you ask him to throw it, the more likely it is he's going to throw an interception, which you'll see with his numbers. And the more likely he's going to incomplete passes. He's going to complete his share of passes, but some are going to hit the ground. A lot are going to hit the ground. But the Colts need him to throw it over and over again. They need him to do that. More so than any other quarterback on this list. More so than any other quarterback and any other member of the starting 5. So I give him some sort of a pass. I don't give him a pass altogether, but I give him some more leeway. More so than some of these other quarterbacks because he's asked to do more. And in some instances with a lot less. You know, he's shining up some guys that, you know, just a year or two ago weren't viable options in the National Football League. He's taking and making these rookies that he's been lumped in with and making them viable options on his team. You know, you take a LaVon Brazil, you take a T.Y. Hilton, and you stick them on an Oakland Raiders roster. You stick them on the Jacksonville Jaguars roster. What are they? What are they? Maybe a punt returner, maybe a kick returner, maybe a special teams contributor. You put them on the Indianapolis Colts roster with Andrew Luck, and they are key contributors. Guys that this offense can't function without. You look at Donnie Avery. He was a journeyman just a year ago. He was drafted by the Rams, the first receiver taken in that draft in the 2nd round by the Rams. Tore his ACL up. Tried to come back, hurt himself again. Rams got rid of him. Landed in Tennessee. Didn't work out there. He was a journeyman receiver now. Lands in Indianapolis, and now his career has been revived. All because of one man. Andrew Luck. Now, the big knock on this Indianapolis Colts team, can't win on the road. They don't know how to get it done on the road. Same could be said for Seattle and Russell Wilson. Can't win on the road. That's why these games, they were expected to lose in Week 13. Because these teams don't win on the road. They don't know how to go on the road and take the same intensity that they play with at home on the road and get a win. They don't know how to do it. Not consistently enough for teams that are looking to make the postseason. Yet, both of these two teams, both of these two quarterbacks, more importantly, stepped up when their teams needed them the most. Again, when the light was its whitest and brightest and hottest, these quarterbacks stepped up and were cool under pressure. Andrew Luck, team down 12, under 5 minutes to go in this football game. What does he do? He calmly takes his team down the field, and he was under pressure. You know, on this particular play, the first of 2 touchdowns that led them to this victory, he was under pressure. He flushed out of the pocket. A guy is basically draped over his legs. Andrew Luck heaves it down the field to an open Levon Brazil, who goes up, makes the catch, and just like that, the Detroit Lions lead has been trimmed from 12 to 5. They make a couple of mistakes in their 4-minute offense, give Andrew Luck the football back with ample time to get it done, and Andrew Luck delivers. With no time left on the clock, Andrew Luck takes his team down the field. And as time expires, throws the game-winning touchdown pass. They get it done on the road, 35-33 against the Detroit Lions. In dramatic comeback fashion, Andrew Luck does it again. He adds to the legend of Andrew Luck, as many of these quarterbacks have done, adding to their legends in this rookie campaign. These rookies never cease to amaze us at the things that they are able to do on a week-in, week-out basis. And I think there was no better week for these rookies than Week 13. 13 is usually an unlucky number, but in this case, in Week 13, this was the luckiest of lucky numbers for this starting 5 group because they were phenomenal in Week 13. And Andrew Luck was one of the most phenomenal on this week. You look at his numbers. 24 of 54. Told you I don't like that completion percentage. Terrible completion percentage. That's well under 50%. Yet, he threw for 391 yards, and he threw for 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Now, again, when you throw it 54 times, what do you expect? You're going to get turnovers. You're going to get incompletions, and that's what happened. And again, keep in mind, they're rookies. Andrew Luck is a rookie. So you're asking him to throw it 54 times. He's going to make some mistakes. There's going to be incompletions. But when it was on the line, when the game was on the line, when completions had to be made, when there was no margin for error, there was no error. Andrew Luck was at his best. He was razor sharp, and he got it done for his team as they were able to beat the Detroit Lions. And I thought that this was their biggest test on the road in terms of teams that they should be able to beat on the road. Teams that don't have a good record but can score points and beat you if you're not careful. I thought this was their best test and a good gauge and a good barometer as to where this Colts team was. And they got it done. All because of Andrew Luck. Now they're 8-4 on the season, are the Indianapolis Colts. They're really in firm position of that 5th playoff spot in the AFC wildcard race. They look poised and primed to make the postseason. Do these Indianapolis Colts. And again, it's all because of one man, Andrew Luck. Let's get into the weekly rankings for the NFL starting 5 quarterbacks because each of them had their own moments in their individual games in Week 13. And again, the weekly rankings don't carry over from week to week. So what they were ranked last week makes no difference, has no impact on what their ranking is this week. We're just taking Week 13 as an individual entity separate from every other week of the season and just gauging that and ranking these quarterbacks accordingly. So let's talk about who came in at number 5 in the weekly rankings.
Number 5.
Ryan Tannehill was number 5 in the weekly rankings. You look at his numbers, 13 of 29. Terrible numbers, especially from a completion percentage standpoint. That's way less than 50%. 186 yards. Not bad, especially for only 13 completions. But again, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He also ran for a touchdown in this game. 5 rushes, 19 yards, 1 touchdown rushing on the ground for Ryan Tannehill. But he missed too many open receivers. He had opportunities to really have an impact on this game. If he were to complete just one of those deep balls to Brian Hartline, could have changed this game. I mean, if he completes the one where he was wide open, no Patriot defender in sight, we're talking about a different game. They lost this game by a touchdown. He completes that pass. That's a touchdown. That's your 7-point difference. That's not saying that they win this game, because the outcome may have been different. The Patriots might have went about their business in a totally different way if the game is tied, or the Dolphins have scored more points. They might have gone about, their offensive philosophy in a different approach. But it doesn't matter. You have to take advantage of opportunities. He didn't do that. He comes in at number 5 for the weekly ranks of the quarterbacks in the National Football League's starting 5. You look at number 4. And the quarterback that comes in at number 4 is Brandon Weeden. And really, Weeden didn't do anything wrong in terms of having a terrible week. Number 4 usually means that you weren't the worst, but you weren't good enough to crack the top 3. In Weeden's case, that's probably true. But if someone else would have had just a subpar week, he probably would have been able to crack the top 3. Because he didn't play that bad. He didn't play bad. He actually played pretty good. I mean, he was able to get his team their first road win of the season. Again, granted, it was the Oakland Raiders. I don't care. Don't care. They put teams in front of you. It's your job to get a win. Don't care who it is, where it is, or how you do it. Just get it done. And he was able to do that. And he was able to do that using his arm. I mean, he was hitting guys, and they were making plays because he was giving them an opportunity to run with the football after they made the catch. And that's huge in the National Football League. Yak is where it's at. And he was able to help guys get yards after the catch because he put the ball in a precise location where they could catch it and run and make things happen. But he comes in at number 4 because the guys above him, they just were phenomenal in Week 13. And he just can't crack the top 3. You look at his numbers, 25 of 36, 364 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. And again, those interception numbers, they're going to be a bugaboo moving forward if he can't get them to lower down. He had been playing better of late and more mistake-free football. He turned it over once last week. He didn't turn it over 2 weeks ago against Dallas when he had 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So the interception numbers have been coming down steadily, but he turned it over more times than he threw touchdown passes in this game. I don't like that, but again, they won the game, and when plays were there to be made, he made them for the most part. So Weeden comes in at number 4. At number 3, even though he had the most dramatic comeback of the weekend, by far, Andrew Luck comes in at number 3. And I tell you why. That completion percentage in this game was lousy. It was terrible. We're talking about less than 50. We're approaching 40%. We're talking 24 of 54. Now, the passing yardage, out of sight. 391 yards. 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and again, I don't like 3 interceptions, especially on the road. You don't win many games like that. Keep in mind, these Colts were down 12 with 6 minutes left in this game for a reason, because Andrew Luck had thrown 3 picks. They had turned the football over in this game. You don't turn it over on the road and expect to win often. Luckily enough for them, and I say this all the time, they were playing a bad Detroit Lions football team. They're 4-8 on the season for a reason. They don't know how to win. And so they got away with being down by 12 and turning the football over 3 times because the Detroit Lions aren't a good football team. So they were able to skate. And Andrew Luck was able to will his team back to a victory with those 4 touchdown passes. It's a lot of touchdown passes. And so he's still in the top 3. You can't deny the special moment that this team had because of Andrew Luck's performance at the end of this ball game, and that's why he's the number 3 quarterback in the weekly ranks of the NFL's starting 5 quarterbacks. You look at the number 2 rated quarterback in the NFL starting 5 weekly rank list for Week 13, and it's Robert Griffin III. He had a solid game that got his team a victory on Monday Night Football against a team that they had to beat, a game that they had to have against the New York Giants. It wasn't anything spectacular like he's done in the past 2 weeks against the Eagles and Cowboys, respectively. However, it was just what the doctor ordered in this game. You look at 13 of 21, 163 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 5 rushes, 72 yards, including a few electrifying runs, one that resulted in a touchdown indirectly. However, he got it done in this game. He did everything his team needed him to do for them to win. And without him in this game, they don't win this game. Robert Griffin III is your second-rated quarterback in the NFL's weekly ranks for the quarterbacks in the starting 5. So you look at number 1, and it's a no-doubter this week. Russell Wilson was your best performer in the starting 5, hands down, bar none. He got it done against the Chicago Bears, a vaunted Chicago Bears defense, on the road at Soldier Field, against all odds. No one thought they were going to win this game. No one thought that the Seahawks were going to go in to Chicago and win this game, especially after going to Miami a week before and losing to the Dolphins. No one saw this one coming. But Russell Wilson, steady as he's always been, hasn't turned it over, it seems like, in an eternity, goes in, has another phenomenal football game. 23 of 37, 293 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 9 rushes, 71 yards. He did everything this Seattle Seahawks team needed him to do. And you can't deny that. When you see it, you can't deny it. And this guy gets it. He's special. And the Seattle Seahawks will only go as far as Russell Wilson will take them. At first, it looked like a team that was going to be run-dominated, that was going to go as far as Marshawn Lynch's legs would take them. That's no longer the case. Marshawn Lynch, he wasn't shut down in this game, but he wasn't beast mode in this game. This game was on the shoulders of Russell Wilson, and he got it done. And that's why he comes in at number 1 in the NFL Starting 5's weekly ranked list. So we're at the moment we've all been waiting for. The overall ranking of the NFL's Starting 5. So last week, some things changed. You know, guys leapfrogged others. Some stayed the same. You know, we had a new first. We had a new last. So things shuffled up around the NFL Starting 5 a little bit. Guys had some good weeks. Guys had some down weeks. So it wasn't the same. This week, though, not much has changed in the Starting 5. Honestly, the list is exactly the same. From week to week, you'll see fluctuation in the list, depending on how well someone played, how bad someone else played. But it's hard to move guys around because of what they were able to do. This group went 4-1 last week. The only member to lose this week was the member that came in at number 5. And so hard to shuffle things around when you're getting it done, your team's winning the game. And these teams aren't winning in spite of these quarterbacks. They're winning because of them. So hard to move these guys around when they're getting the job done on the field. You look at the number 5 quarterback in the Starting 5.
Number 5.
Ryan Tannehill. He didn't get it done. They lost to the Patriots. He was 13 of 29, 186 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Did have 1 rushing touchdown, but he didn't get it done. He's got 2 road wins on the season. They're going to travel on the road to San Francisco this week, see if they can improve upon that 5-7 mark, but he wasn't good. They lost this game because he wasn't able to get it done. He missed open receivers. They paid for it. They lost the game. So he stays at number 5. You look at number 4.
Number 4.
The number 4 player on this list is still Brandon Weeden. And you could argue that Ryan Tannehill is having a better season than Brandon Weeden. I'll listen, but I like what Brandon Weeden is doing, and they won for the 2nd consecutive week. I feel like he's playing better football now, and Ryan Tannehill has already played his best football of the season. Meanwhile, I don't know if we've seen the best out of Brandon Weeden yet. Maybe we have, but he's still playing solid football. There's not the peaks and valleys that there are for Ryan Tannehill. Brandon Weeden has just been steady. It's not a sharp incline, but it's a steady incline, okay? It's just like that. It's not like this, but it's like that. It's pretty steady. It's pretty even. He threw 2 interceptions in this game. He also threw a touchdown pass. He went up well over 300 yards, 25 of 36, well over 300 yards. They get the win on the road. A road win. The first of the season for Brandon Weeden and this Cleveland Browns team. And so Brandon Weeden got it done, helped his team win a game. He was a big reason why they were able to win that game. He stays at number 4 on the overall rank for the NFL starting 5. You look at number 3. The number 3 quarterback on the list is Andrew Luck. And even though he had the most dramatic come-from-behind win of any member of the starting 5, doesn't matter. His numbers in this game were abysmal. And I can't look past the fact that he incompleted 30 passes in this game or that he threw 3 interceptions. He was part of the reason they were down by 12 with less than 6 minutes to go in this football game. So I can't excuse him for that. Even though he came back and got his team out of the hole that he dug, I can't excuse him for the fact that he dug that hole. And then he had the flair for the dramatic to bring them back. I can't allow him to skate because he was able to do a good deed. But he was the reason why they were in that hole in the first place. He was turning the football over. He had 3 interceptions in this game, leading to points for the Detroit Lions. I can't excuse that. He had 30 incompletions. I don't like seeing the ball hit the ground that many times in one game, and he let it hit the ground more times than he had completions. But all in all, he got it done, and that's why he doesn't move down on this list. Can't move him up because the quarterbacks over him perform so well in their games. But I can do one thing for him. I can allow him to stay at number 3 on this list. And that's exactly where Andrew Luck is in Week 14 of the NFL's starting 5 overall ranks for the season. So you get to the number 2 quarterback. And it's Russell Wilson. This guy gets it done no matter what the circumstances are. Russell Wilson is that guy. And he gets overlooked sometimes. Everyone wants to talk Andrew Luck. Everyone wants to talk Robert Griffin III. What about Russell Wilson? What about Russell Wilson? Don't forget about this guy. He's playing some of the best football of this group. Don't forget about him. Don't sleep on Russell Wilson. Because if you do, he'll wake you up, and he'll wake you up with a resounding thud. The guy is getting it done week in, week out. He takes his team on the road to Chicago, a place that many of us, me included, did not think they could go and win a game. They struggled all season long on the road. Why would they go into Soldier Field into Chicago and get a win against a quality opponent like the Chicago Bears? Why would that happen? Because Russell Wilson has this team believing they can go into anywhere and win games because he's going to do his part. He's going to elevate the play of guys like Sidney Rice, guys like Golden Tate. He's going to elevate their play and help them win football games. They didn't put the onus on Marshawn Lynch in this game, which is what they normally do. They said, hey, Russell, I need you to take us to a victory. And he responded by getting it done, not once, because he got it done in regulation. It should have been enough. But that defense blew that 3-point lead with less than a minute to go, allowed the Bears to take it to overtime. He said, don't worry, I'll bail us out twice. Not once, but twice. I'll take us down the field in overtime. Won't even allow the Bears offense to see the field. He got it done. He was clutch. 23 of 37, 293, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's why Russell Wilson is still number 2 on the NFL's starting 5's overall rank for these quarterbacks in Week 14. Only reason he's not number 1 is because of the number 1. Quarterback on this list, and that, my friends, is Robert Griffin III. What can we say that hasn't already been said about this rookie? He's getting it done. This is probably as bright the stage has been all season for Robert Griffin III. And he showed up, and as usual, he showed out. He got it done. These numbers weren't gaudy numbers like they've been the last couple of weeks. What he did against the Eagles 3 weeks ago, what he did against the Cowboys 2 weeks ago. These aren't those numbers. But what it is enough for his team to win. He did exactly what his team needed him to do to get the win. 13 to 21, 150 some odd passing yards. It wasn't an overly big day in the air, but what it was an efficient day in the air. When passes were there to be made, he made them. They made plays. They scored points. They didn't have the ball that many times in this game. They only had 8 possessions. And really, you can argue that it was only 7 because that last possession, they were really just looking to run the clock out. They were in their 4-minute offense, and they were looking to run the clock out and not give the Giants back the ball offensively. So, really, 7 possessions, and they moved the ball on those 7 possessions. You know, penalties stopped one, a fumble stopped another. So, we're talking about them moving the football in this game. And it was because of Robert Griffin III's ability to not only use his legs, but use his arms and put pressure on that defense to allow Alfred Morris and that Redskins running game to really get established and dominate this game against the Giants. I mean, he had 5 rushes, over 70 yards in this game. He was dynamic. He was phenomenal, and he was the reason the Redskins were able to get this win. Robert Griffin III, he is the #1 overall member of the NFL's starting 5. And that is your list for this week, and that is going to be an episode for the NFL starting 5. So, these quarterbacks don't move much on the overall list, but again, tune in next week. You never know what can happen. This list will fluctuate from time to time, but these guys have been getting it done, and it's a joy to watch. Enjoy this. Embrace it, because you won't see this many more times. You don't get 5 rookies that come in and impact the league like these guys have done this season, and so continue to watch them because you won't see another class like this. I don't think you will. I mean, this is as dynamic as it gets at the quarterback position. You know, this is a position that impacts the game the most. And these guys have relished that fact, and they've come in and played good football from day one up until now. So that is the NFL's starting 5. I thank you for joining me on the program. This is the Week 14 edition. Hope to see you back here next week when we talk about these 5 quarterbacks, what they were able to do in Week 14, and what they need to do in Week 15 to help their teams progress on and finish this season strong. This is, and this continues to be the NFL's starting 5.
This is your